Now, getting into again that circularity of the products and looking at some of the complexities that exist around the process. Again, you can end up here on the right in that crawl, walk, run approach, where you can have nutrition information, ingredients, and flavors, and campaigns, and so forth. But you don't have to start there. You can start with something much simpler. We can start with just nutrition information, which, if you're familiar with the Smart Label program in the United States, it's already something that's available through QR codes in just about every product. Um, that can be a simple starting point. And then you can evolve that into ingredients, and then evolve into certain things around campaigns and what do I do with the sourcing, the details around it. Allergens is a big component, being able to tell quickly, is there an allergy around this, and being able to create that profile and that relationship with that consumer, especially on the food safety side. We talked about product recalls, being able to scan that product and have it immediately at the point of sale or even at home. Imagine the recall process that traditionally I go look for batch information. I've got to go to a website, go check out my local news station, et cetera, try to find the recall information. That can be very difficult. Whereas if I could just scan that barcode and it would instantly tell me if it's part of a recall or not, that is perfectly safe, that would make that process so much easier, really cut down on waste, frustration, and greatly improve that consumer relationship, ultimately building a better relationship over time. So the ability to, again, look at these dynamically and change them in terms of that experience, be able to update in real time. A lot of times it's important to be able to create the product packaging well in advance and be able to update that over time, because you may not necessarily know where that's going to end up or where to update the information to. So again, real-time updates to your platform based on that same product code that was already printed onto the packaging, we still update that later on to with whatever information may evolve as that product itself tells its own story.